Greetings, dear friends. My name is Otto Schwarz, and I'm the co-founder of LFO Store, one of the largest platforms in the perspective of sound design for analog and digital synthesizers. And I'm the creator of 4 sound banks for virusti, which I rightfully consider one of the best synthesizers in history. We have received a lot of letters from you where you're asking us to show how to create interesting and complex soundscapes for this synthesizer. And now it's time to reveal all my personal secrets and hints. I have been working with this synthesizer for 15 years, and virusti is my first love due to the fact I bought it at the age of 17. And since this age, I dived deep into the science of sound design, and a few years later, I began to collaborate officially with FXes Music, the manufacturer of virusti synthesizer. So this synthesizer is a part of my personal life story. Therefore, I will be really glad to share with you the inspiring knowledge I have accumulated through the years. Let's talk today concerning the most fascinating features of virusti and how to use them properly to create the unusual sounds. First of all, we must understand that virusti has a wonderful set of internal waves. You can see a list of them. Each of these sound waves can be modulated in several ways, including 2 types of granular synthesis, simple and complex, as well as 2 types of Formant synthesis, also simple and complex. Granular synthesis is the splitting of a wave into small granules and skillful mixing of these granules. In turn, Formant synthesis is a special application of a filter and resonance on the spectrum of a wave to obtain an effect that resembles a live voice. Let's see how it sounds. Please note that each type of synthesis has specific additional modulation parameters that could be used. If we have selected a granular complex wave of synthesis, then we open some options like frequency shift, detune, and others. Wave index modulation can be set to the modulation wheel. You need to enter the matrix section of your virusti synthesizer and set the mod wheel as the source to modulate oscillator 1 wavetable index. But you can also assign an LFO parameter to be responsible for the wavetable index. Thus, we get an inspiring multifaceted sound. The second tricky hint I use to create complex sounds is the split filter. It separates the sound filtering in such a way that the first oscillator is linked to the first filter and the second oscillator is linked to the second one. This way we can eliminate the synchronization of the oscillator by dividing their sounds by filtering and panning, so to create a more complex soundscape. It is like you have two cars, the first one that drives around the city and the other one can overcome the off-road of the countryside. So how do we manage these two filters? For example, let LFO1 affect the first filter and LFO2, which is a low frequency object, will modulate the second filter. We need to make the waveforms of these two LFOs differ. It turns out that the first LFO will act according to one scenario and the second LFO in a different way. When we connect two oscillators together, we get a complex sound. Note that you can also choose the volume balance between the two oscillators. For example, you want the first to create the sound mostly and the second to be used just, as the background, as an effect. The third trick we're going to look at is the use of noise. Almost every synthesizer has the ability to generate noise. This is usually white noise, but sometimes pink, brown, and others are also used. The color of the noise actually indicates the degree of its filtering. White noise is the most commonly encountered because it is a classical noise with a flattened frequency spectrum. Today, the generated noise is even used in sound therapy, for example, to help children fall asleep better. With the noise sound, you can imitate the sound of the sea or some special effects. Of course, your wife can act as the noise generator, but your synthesizer has the advantage that this noise can be filtered. Therefore, in a dispute between girls and synthesizers, synthesizers win. When we're working with noise, it is important to have a filter and LFO that can create unusual effects. Let's check out how it sounds. Now let's talk about easier ways to make the sounds more modulated. First of all, you can use velocity, that is, assign a parameter that will depend on how hard you press the keys. For example, if we program the velocity to modulate the filter, then the openness degree of the sound will depend on the pressing force. See how it sounds. Perfecto! We can bind other parameters to velocity, for example, the power attack of the envelope. Attack parameter is responsible for the smoothness of the entry of sound when a key of the synthesizer is pressed. Usually, when it comes to parts then it's a smooth entry of the sound. But if it is a lead category, then it's usually a sharp attack. However, we can combine these two options so that when the key is pressed weakly, the sound increases gradually, and when the key is pressed sharply and strongly, it arises almost immediately. Another unique section of our synthesizer is the effect sections. First of all, we are interested in the phaser. We can modulate its bass frequency with a modulation wheel or an LFO. Let's see how it sounds. You should agree it sounds quite interesting. It's also worth noting that we don't have to make the effect completely absorb our sound. You need to find a proper balance between dry and wet. When you're dealing with your girlfriend, it's important to make her totally wet, but here we are able to adjust the dry to wet ratio. Therefore, by slightly mixing a phaser or chorus into the outgoing master signal, we can get an inspiring result, roughly like this. Don't forget to adjust the EQ to get a thicker and brighter sound. Also check out the delay and reverb sections. By default, you have a simple delay, but you can use more interesting settings such as a tape delay. The next thing we will talk about is pitch modulation by internal virusti sequencer. I was the first of all sound designers who started to use this option actively. I used a smart trick, pitch modulation by sequencer plus parallel filters, so that one oscillator plays the melody in the upper register and the second in the lower register. Here you meet face-to-face with mathematical work. You need to calculate how much changing the parameter in the sequencer will change the pitch. You know, I really calculated everything mathematically. It turns out that a semitone is the parameter deviation of about 4 or 5 numbers. Let me give you a few more interesting details. You can use the third oscillator and the sub-oscillator as additional layers to give the sound a more specific tone. You can also automate the volume of these oscillators, giving you the interesting effect of making your sound patches more complex. Separately, I would like to mention the LFO waveforms. It is very useful to use a square waveform. Using this wave shape, you are able to turn something on and off relying on a certain rhythm. Take, for example, the volume of the noise and the third oscillator. See how the LFO can let you turn sounds on and off. This is a very interesting trick. Let me remind you that the virus has a huge number of unique waves that can be used for LFO to modulate sounds. Switch waves to find the effect which you feel the most suitable for your preset. So, today I have shared with you a real treasure, a secret ancient knowledge accumulated by many years of magical experiments. Unfortunately, Access Music is no hurry to update the line of virusti synthesizers, and perhaps virusti I is the last model of the legendary series. By the way, GmbH means limited in German. Gesellschaft mit beschränkter Haftung, something you never want to pronounce. Otherwise, you might think that someone started coughing, and that's why the name of the company came out. By the way, if you want to support our work and donate this video, you may follow the link in the description to this video. I wish you success in your study of the science of sound design. Write your questions and wishes in the comments to this video and subscribe to our channel. Vielen Dank, merci, gracias, and see you later.